A big bombshell dropped today in the 3.15 announcement of Expedition League. GGG said they want to revamp the difficulty of Path of Exile. To be more precise, make the game a lot harder. We are going to do a deep dive into my thoughts on the matter because I've got a lot. Welcome, it's your friendly neighborhood Badger here, and I am back with yet some more Path of Exile 3.15 Expedition content. As of today, they've released the announcement of the league, and we'll be getting the league starting next weekend, which is really exciting. And we've talked about a bunch of stuff in some previous videos, and there's still some more to come. But today we're talking about Path of Exile GGG making Path of Exile a lot more challenging. Now, right before we start, I know this is going to be a bit of a contentious topic, a bit of a controversial topic, so I will just put a little bit of a forewarning. A lot of these views held here are my own personal experience with Path of Exile, and also we haven't actually played this new version of the harder Path of Exile yet, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. We don't know how it's actually going to function and feel. It's totally fine to express your opinions now, and please do in the comments below, but reserve all final judgments until we actually get to play the game and see how it actually functions. Is that all cool? Brilliant, awesome. Oh yeah, and also subscribe. Let's get into it. So Path of Exile has stated they want to make the game a bit more challenging. Over the years, over all of the leagues that have been released, 30 of them, this is the 30th release of an actual league mechanic. Path of Exile has become a lot faster. We have been dealing a ton more damage. Basically everything seems to have moved away from the original idea of Path of Exile to be quite the hardcore ARPG experience into the game it is now, which is a lot more akin to a hack and slash. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not saying anything on that right now, but I will talk about my opinions a little bit later. I've heard people really excited about these changes. I've heard people really upset about these changes. And there seems to be those two sides there. So whatever your opinion is, that's entirely valid. Just remember to be a little bit civil in the way that you do present it, right? So, in almost every update, GGG says, we provide new ways to improve your characters, have more effective skills to use, and ways to craft better and more powerful items. The power level of endgame Path of Exile characters has increased tenfold since launch. Now, we can also see this over here, right? Now, I do know there's going to be a lot of people saying like, well, we don't even know one of the axes. What is actually, what are these numbers over here, the relative player power? I'm very much in the ballpark that Path of Exile, they know what this is. This is not made up whatsoever. This is an accurate representation of the type of relative power that we have seen in characters. How exactly that has been measured, that's up to GGG, right? I'm sorry, let me just make my window a little bit smaller there. Sorry about that. It's very much GGG's numbers that they do have here, and honestly, it's probably just going to crowd or confuse things more if they did actually put something over there. I don't want people to get too riled up about that side of things, right? But as we can see here, things through the Forsaken Masters and then the Ascendancy changes, there was quite the jump up there. You can see about a 40% increase of relative power just from the Ascendancies, right? Obviously, something through Harvest, we were seeing like, let's say that's 20, that's like 22, up to like 24 or something like that. That's quite the increase. 22 to 24 type of thing. That's a pretty big increase in power. No, not 20. That would be 12 to 14. Sorry, 12 to 14, which is quite the increase in power. And then through the last few expansions as well. There's a number of reasons that this has happened. Their relative power has gone up. Yes, Path of Exile has addressed that there's been, a lot of things that they've added that has increased that. But we as Path of Exile players have become smarter in working the system, knowing how more multipliers work in conjunction with everything else, and really just trying to juice up everything to the maximum. There's a bit of a speed meta and a bit of a damage meta, right? So that relative power is probably very much focused on, how much damage characters are doing. I would maybe even say that Path of Exile is outsourcing and looking at things like PoE Ninja and looking the averages of damage dealt and everything like that. But they probably also have very in-depth numbers from their internals, right? So look, there's a bunch of things as to why GGG thinks that they want to go back or try to make it a little bit more challenging. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that say, Path of Exile, GGG is just wanting to go back to the good old days. Is that something that a game should do? Should they try to harken back to how the game used to be? And there's a couple of really interesting, ideas going on here. Chris talked a lot about all of this, and whether they just keep adding numbers, adding health, adding speed, and everything like that. And what he said was a bit of a cheap way to go about increasing the longevity of the game. But then, it would potentially just get to a point where it would just keep doing that and the game would die off. Now, there are people stating that the game is dying now. I don't believe the game is dying whatsoever. I think there's been some poor choices in the past by GGG, but I think they're trying to correct them. And right now we're at a little bit of, I would say, a little bit of a crossroads in terms of the people who really enjoy the fast-paced hack and slash version of Path of Exile, and the people who really enjoy taking a little bit more time, being a little bit more cautious, and potentially spending more time in zones, in maps, really thinking about the choices that they're making in the game, right? Once again, I don't know which is the better version of this game. I really enjoy speeding through maps, but I also enjoy kind of solving problems in Path of Exile, solving the problem of, say, for example, porcupines keep killing me. How do I solve that problem with my character? Let's go about doing that, right? There's a bunch of new changes coming through to flasks and some other nerfs that we don't really know about yet, and I'll do a big video on the manifesto when that does come. But it has been stated there's not only going to be a difficulty increase through nerfing damage from support gems and increasing some damage through the story itself, but then also having a little bit of a nerf through all of those nerfs that we are going to be receiving. I think Chris mentioned that there's definitely going to be a bit of a nerf to how element immunity works. There's nerfs to how flasks work. But actually potentially bringing a little bit more quality of life to the flasks as well, which we'll talk about in a different video. Flasks, all on their own. So it really brings it to this point of, do we think as a community that this is a good move or a bad move to move in the direction of making the game more challenging? And there tends to be, once again, two sides to the argument, two sides to the story. Usually an argument consists of two well-developed, thought out, opinions on what they think is right, and both are very valid. I would say that the majority of people who play as a very casual player, and I don't really know exactly how to group those people. Casual is a little bit of a loaded term in Path of Exile. Is casual playing 1 hour every week, or is casual playing 1 hour every day? There's a bit of a difference there. But the casual player who, say, for example, has a full-time job or a part-time to full-time job, maybe has a family to care for, maybe does play, between, I would say, 3 to 5 hours or 2 to 5 hours a week, potentially, right? Is this just going to make the barrier of entry even harder to get to that end game? And the short answer is yes, I do believe so. I 100% believe so, that this is going to slow the game down, going to make it more difficult to get to that, that pedestalized end game, where your character is done, where you've killed Maven, where everything has been completed. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? I believe that it is a good thing in the longevity of Path of Exile as a business decision. If things are going to take longer to get to where you need to get to, people will play longer and hopefully not get as burnt out, right? Then there's also just going to be the people who say, hands up, I'm just not even going to play. I'm not even going to bother. It's too difficult for me now. I can't fathom, investing the time that I used to invest in the Path of Exile and not even achieving close to what I was achieving before, right? So, that's going to happen as well. There's going to be a bit of an exodus of people who just don't believe that Path of Exile is for them anymore, and that's entirely valid as well. I very much understand that. If I wasn't in a position of content creation and full-time doing this, I'm not sure if I would be playing Path of Exile, honestly. I love the game so much, but if I was, say, for example, if I did have a job in my other profession, music or something like that, I probably, I might be playing a little bit every now and then, might play for the first week and then stop or something like that, or just not really play much at all and instead play some other, shorter form games or something like that. There's a very real potential that could happen to me, so I very much empathize with the people who are really frustrated that their favorite game is moving in the direction that they don't want it to move into. I guess tying this all up as well. Oh, obviously, sorry, the other little side to this side of people is new players coming into the game. If you're making Act 1, the first act of the game, more difficult, is that going to stop people even trying the game, or is that going to encourage people to overcome hurdles, right? And, we're kind of fractally splitting off lots of different ways here, because there's another split that happens here of two different types of new players that come in. There's a new player who downloads the game free on Steam because they heard from a friend, was like, oh yeah, maybe you should try this game, or let's play this game together. They get to Brutus and they keep dying over and over again. Nah, not for me, uninstall, right? That happens to so many that just happens to free games all the time. I don't know the metrics of, amount of players not getting past certain points compared to other free games and everything like that, but hey, that happens all the time. There are also going to be people who will potentially be caught by Path of Exile more because of the difficulty they initially get hit with. Yes, Path of Exile is a very confusing game. It is a very hard game for new players to get into, but I have actually heard from quite a few people that playing the first act has been relatively easy, coming from other ARPGs and everything like that. They know an ARPG, they know what's going on, all of this kind of stuff, right? Making it a little bit harder could potentially mean that, a certain group of these new players coming in do actually get hooked a little bit better, because they can see that there's a bit more thought to go into everything here, right? There's a bit more thought and a bit more calculation, rather than just rushing gung-ho like a certain Diablo 3 video game that we all know. Maybe taking a bit more time, realizing or trying to figure out what, damaged you, what killed you, or anything like that. One thing that I really, really, really do believe, however, that if this is going to continue and the difficulty will keep ramping, GGG, we really do need a death recap. Like, this does need to happen, I do believe, if this difficulty increase is going to be happening. If we want more of these moments of like, whoa, that was so difficult, that just dealt so much damage. What happened? Did I get frozen? How much damage did I take? What kind of damage did I take? This is going to help new players so much getting into the game. If you die to something, you don't know what you died to, you're like, man, that was kind of bullshit. Like, what happened there? That was, what happened? If you die and you're like, wait, what happened there? Click a button. Oh, I died because I took a bunch of damage, a bunch of cold damage from Chatters when he shield throwed me. And yeah, my cold res is in the negatives right now. That makes a little bit of sense, right? So I really, really do believe that is something that, if this is going to continue and this difficulty will increase, we really do need a recap, like we do see on the Chinese realms and everything like that. And now I know, it's run differently and everything like that over there, so it's not just as simple as a copy paste and GG being like, oh yeah, I'll just, enable that. Things are different, and the direction is different for what, Chris wants and what the team at GGG do want. But I really believe that that's something that we do need, right? Now, the other side of all of this, not the new players or the casual players, but the, as everyone likes to say, the 0.1%ers, right? Us who play the game a lot, I would include myself in that because I'm a content creator and I play the game a lot to, enjoy the game and make content out of the game and everything like that. Like, what is this actually doing? Making the game harder. And by golly, am I excited. From this once again, I do always have to say this is a personal opinion of my personal enjoyment of the video game Path of Exile. I'm very excited. Recently, I've been getting quite burnt out with PoE. As you may have noticed, I've been, maybe ending leagues a little bit earlier, playing some more variety, not doing as much content from it. And I do attribute, not all of it, but I do attribute a large amount of this to the game just becoming a little bit of a, level your character with said leveling equipment, buy all of your equipment from trade, have 10 million DPS because, I can afford that because I play the game a lot, 20 million, 30 million DPS, trivialize all the bosses in the game, and then do it again, right? There are ways around this, I could play some more SSF and everything like that, and I do enjoy SSF sometimes, but it's not actually my pure enjoyment of the game. I really do just enjoy softcore trade experience. I do really enjoy it. I do think it's really great. And I've come to that conclusion after trying a lot of different ways of going about it. And, you know, this does help us, I do believe, us being the 0.1%ers. Not actually 0.1%. It would be more like 15%, as Chris said, and they know the data and everything like that. But making the game harder and making it more difficult for you to get to that, you know, that end game does mean that you do play on your characters a little bit longer, right? And you get hooked in by the game a little bit longer, and you don't go to Escape from Tarkov 1 month into the league, right? I think there's a lot to gain from this. I think there's a lot to gain from slowing the game down and being a little bit more methodical in how this damage is distributed, how defenses, how we think about our defenses. This new ward mechanic coming in is going to be really, really interesting to play around with and enjoy. But yeah, I do think that this is a good move in the right direction. Now, I'm still just trying to consolidate my thoughts here. I probably should have put a few more notes down. But once again, we really do just have to wait and play and see. First of all, we have to wait for the manifesto to know, you know, what specifically might be getting nerfed. We have to wait to see how these new skills play out. We have to wait to see what they mean by increasing the difficulty in Act 1. You know, if it's going to be a little bit more difficult, we can expect that, you know, in all of the acts coming in future leagues. They'll hopefully be updating the extra leagues. The extra acts, I should say. If it's going to be way, way, way more difficult, then, you know, we kind of know by this point that GGG really want their game to be a Dark Souls-esque ARPG. And who am I to say that's, you know, that's wrong and I should be offended at that? Because I am in the ballpark of this is their decision with their game. And if it really does affect the numbers, they'll have to live with the consequences. They really will. I'll probably keep playing the game because I enjoy it, but I can understand how a lot of people might not want to play Path of Exile becoming a lot harder. However, you know, if it's really the way that GGG want to go with it, we should say, you know, if you don't agree with that, you know, the best thing that you can do is go, look, Path of Exile, grinding gear games, I don't agree with the direction you're going, so I'm going to stop playing the game, right? And that's all you can really do, right? I think getting too annoyed and keeping playing the game, and then getting more annoyed and keeping playing the game and getting more and more and more and more annoyed is not only gonna, you know, negatively affect the Path of Exile community, but, you know, it's gonna negatively affect you. That's not a great headspace to be in. So if you really don't enjoy the game, I know it's tough because it is such a fun game, and we've probably all really enjoyed the game for a very long time. And if you're making that switch, if you're like, you know what, I actually don't really enjoy this anymore, that's really tough. That's like stopping, trying. It's, you know, it's a form of addiction, I guess. It's trying to, you know, stop drink coffee or smoke or something like that, right? It's probably very different, but, you know, it's something like, look, you know, I really actually just it's not good anymore, right? And yeah, just consider that. That's what I'd say. Just consider, because Path of Exile knows what they want for the game, and whether that's going to mean going to be the best numbers that they ever achieve. I think Chris mentioned something like, you know, we could just keep buffing everything and never nerf anything. Then numbers would go up and up and up, and then the game would crash, and we wouldn't exist anymore. They're in here for the long run. They're in here for security and sustainability. So I think they're on the right path for that. Whether that means losing quite a few people in the short term and gaining people over a long term, that could very much be where it is. Thank you so much for watching, guys. That's all I really have to say. I hope I've covered enough. If you think I've missed something out, or you don't agree with my views or anything like that, that is totally fine. Please let me know in the comments down below. But please be civil about it. It's totally fine to be negative and to criticize, but to attack any individual, to attack people will not be tolerated on my channel. Actual, you know, personal attacks or everything like that. Just be a little bit careful in the words that you're saying, but please, you know, if you really, really want to express your opinion, please do, and I'll try and read as much as I can. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, Badger is out.